Hello everyone, today's lesson is all about pronouns. Pronouns, as we generally know, are words that replace a noun or a noun phrase. We use pronouns to avoid repetition in the speech or in the written language, or in order to sound more natural. There are certain kinds of pronouns that apparently look scary, but they're quite easy to understand once we study them in detail. We come across the pronouns while we read, listen, or speak the English language. So let's take a look at the kinds of pronouns listed here. So here is the list of the kinds of pronouns. First we have personal pronouns, then reflexive pronouns, demonstrative pronouns, interrogative pronouns, indefinite pronouns, and relative pronouns. So first of all, we'll discuss the personal pronouns. Personal pronouns act as a subject or object of a sentence. So any pronoun that will replace the subject of a sentence will be called a subjective pronoun. For example, she told me a story. So she here is the one who is telling the story. And who is she telling to? She is telling me. So she is a subjective pronoun, while me, that is an objective pronoun, because me is acting as the object of the sentence. In the same way, we can replace she with I. For example, I told her a story, right? So I will become the subject of a sentence, and her is the object, because I am telling her. They gave us a gift, or we gave them a gift. So in the first sentence, they is a subjective pronoun and us is an objective pronoun, because they are giving someone a gift, in this case us. They gave us a gift, so us are objective pronoun. And they are subjective pronouns because they are the ones doing the action. They are the ones who are giving. In the next sentence, we gave them a gift. We here is a subjective pronoun because we are the ones who are giving or who gave. And them is an object or objective pronoun. In the next sentence, we have an example of two subjects. For example, Chris and I are friends. I often ask him to go for an outing with me. So in the first part, Chris and I are friends. We have two subjects, Chris and I. So sometimes the students make a mistake and they put Chris and me, which is wrong, because it's always other person's name first and then it's I, if you are using a pronoun for yourself. So Chris and I are friends. I often ask him. In the second part, I is the subject while him is the object, because he is receiving the action and the action is asking. So I ask him. That means him is the object of the sentence. In the next sentence, Dan invited Chris and me to his farmhouse. In this sentence, Dan is the subject of the sentence because he is inviting, he is the one doing the action, while Chris and me are the objects. They are in the object position. When I is in the object position, it will become me. That is why Dan invited Chris and me to his farmhouse. In the first sentence, before this, Chris and I are friends. Chris and I were in the subject position. That's why we used I. When I turns to object, it becomes me. Let's turn to the possessive pronouns. Possessive pronouns show possession or ownership. They are my, mine, your, yours, her, hers, his, their, theirs, our, ours, its or its. They are very commonly used in sentences. For example, look at these examples. This idea is hers. You could say this is her idea, but we can also say this idea is hers. Your car is better than mine. So over here we have two possessive pronouns, your and mine. Do you know Simpsons? The house across the street is theirs. Simpsons over here is the Simpson family, right? The word Simpsons, it represents the whole family members. So the house across the street is theirs means the house belongs to that family. So we'll be using theirs. You could say it's their house, or you could say that house is theirs. Demonstrative pronouns. The demonstrative pronouns are used to point to a specific object. The demonstrative pronouns are this, that, these, and those. So this will be used when we are pointing to an object which is quite close. And that will be used when the object is a little bit far. And same applies to these and those. These and those are the plural forms of this and that. So we'll be using these and those with the objects which are in plural form. Look at these sentences. This is my sister's purse. This points out to an object which is quite close, so we'll use this. This is my sister's purse. That looks like the cycle I used to ride. That is pointing out the cycle, which is at a distance. These are not very well-known books. Why do you want to buy them? We are using these because we are talking about books. So the books are in plural form. That is why we are using these to point out the books. In the same way, we are using those for mangoes. Those mangoes are bigger than ones sold in the market. Indefinite pronouns. Indefinite pronouns are pronouns that do not indicate the exact person or object. They refer to one or more unspecified things. For example, if we say anybody, nobody, someone, either, neither, any, some, several, enough. So that is not the way we point to a particular subject or object, right? This is just random. It can be any, some, several. So it's not specific. All those pronouns are indefinite pronouns. We use those pronouns a lot in our everyday written or spoken English. So let's take a look at some examples. Nobody wants to travel in icy weather. Some of my friends live in rural area. So I'm not specifying which friends. So I'll say some friends, right? Can anyone tell me the answer? Can anyone tell me the answer to my question? Anyone. So I'm not specifying here who I want to tell me the answer. So I'll say anyone. Can anyone tell me the answer to my question? Neither of my two boys wants to become a doctor. So I'll say neither of my two boys wants to become a doctor. Neither over here is an indefinite pronoun. Many people have been infected with this disease recently. Many. So I'm not saying what number, so I'll just say many people, right? So many over here is indefinite pronoun. Reflexive pronouns. Reflexive pronouns, as the name shows, reflects back to its subject. Some of the subjective pronouns can be turned into reflexive pronouns. For example, I will be turned into myself. We will become ourselves, you, yourself, or yourselves, they, themselves, he, himself, she, herself, and itself. Here comes the question. In what situations do we need the reflexive pronoun? We use reflexive pronoun when the subject and object of the sentence are the same. Secondly, we use reflexive pronouns when we want to emphasize a situation. For example, look at these sentences. He mowed his garden all by himself. So in this sentence, he is the subject, garden is the object, while himself is another object. And we are using himself because we want to emphasize that he did his work himself. He mowed his garden all by himself. In the second sentence, let me introduce myself. In this sentence, if I am introducing myself, I will say, let me introduce myself. If I ask someone to introduce himself or herself, I will say, introduce yourself. In the third sentence, Sarah created an amazing art project by herself. The same as the first sentence, Sarah is the subject of the sentence. The art project is an object and herself is another object. So we are using herself because Sarah is a girl. So she turns into herself. I love myself. In this sentence as well, I turned into myself because the reflexive pronoun reflects back to its subject. In the last sentence, the Smiths came to the USA a couple of years ago. They established themselves very well in the new country. So here we are talking about the Smith family who established themselves. So they will turn into themselves. Themselves is reflecting back to the Smiths. Next in the list is interrogative pronouns. Interrogative comes from interrogation or from asking or questioning, right? So interrogative pronouns are words or pronouns used to ask questions. The interrogative pronouns are what, which, who, whom, whose. What would you like for lunch? Which color do you prefer for your car? Who is that weird guy? Whom are you staying with at the hotel? Whose book is this? So all those words, which, what, who, whom, or whose, in these sentences work as interrogative pronouns. In some other sentences, they also work as relative pronouns when they join clauses or sentences. It all depends how they are used in a sentence. If they are used in the beginning of a sentence, they will become interrogative pronouns. If they are used to join two sentences or clauses, they will be relative pronouns. So let's talk about relative pronouns a little bit. So relative pronouns are pronouns used to introduce relative or subordinate clauses. They work like conjunctions in joining two sentences or clauses. So the relative pronouns are again who, whom, whose, that, which. In these pronouns, who, whom, and that, and also whose, they refer to people. Only these four types of pronouns refer to people. The pronoun which refers to animals or things. That and those also refer to animals or things in some situations. Whoever, whomever, what, where, which, when are also used to relate clauses or sentences, so they are relative pronouns. Let's take a look at the examples. The guy who's waving at me is my friend. Over here, the word who or the pronoun who is a relative pronoun. This is the house which was built in 18th century. Here, which is joining two clauses. This is the house and was built in 18th century. I want to buy the car that my sister likes. That is joining two clauses. I want to buy the car that my sister likes. So that is acting as a conjunction as well as a relative pronoun. The stranger whom I gave the ride turned out to be my neighbor. The book that I was reading captured my interest every passing minute. That I was reading. So that is again a relative pronoun. In the group of 4 students, whoever will be selected will lead the group. Whoever. So here we have the use of whoever. So whoever, whichever, whomever are also relative pronouns. They relate clauses or sentences. That was the end of the lesson about pronouns. Stay tuned for more lessons about parts of speech. Thanks for watching.